on the battle against ISIS. Just days after the fall of Ramadi, the State Department is now confirming that the U.S. sends Iraqi security forces shoulder-fired rocket launchers. A senior U.S. official says the weapons are intended to help take out armored suicide trucks, which ISIS has been using to devastating and effective effect. Doug McElway joins us now, reporting live from the White House. So, Doug, we hear two sides of this story, that Iraqi troops are said to be unwilling to fight, but we also hear that troops complain that they don't have the right equipment, and we've seen what happens to some of that equipment when it falls into the wrong hands. So a lot to talk about here, Doug.
Yeah, so which is it? That they lack the will to fight or they don't have the right equipment? And this shipment of shoulder-fired missiles might help to answer that question. Iraqi troops have long been complaining that they lack the armor-piercing capability to thwart these full-on frontal assaults that ISIS has been using with great effect in recent months and weeks. If you take a look at what they do, they mount a full-on frontal assault with VBADs, with vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices at the same time. This is almost akin to a land-borne version of the kamikaze attacks that we saw the Japanese mount against U.S. ships in the latter stages of World War II. It must be frightening to defenders, because once they see that their weapons are not working to thwart the attacks, they do what any sane human being would do. They run away. A State Department spokesman yesterday in a background briefing described the assault on Ramadi, quote, "There was an armored bulldozer which knocked over the T-wall perimeters, which then was the first explosion. Then they had an armored dump truck, an armored Humvee, and you can see what they do. They weld these things so they're totally impervious to a lot of weapon systems that the Iraqis have to try to take them out." The spokesman said that Prime Minister al-Abadi made the request for these weapon systems when he visited with President Obama last April, and Vice President Joe Biden affirmed the delivery of these weapon systems in a phone call with Abadi just on Friday. These 1,000 AT-4 anti-tank weapon systems are expected to arrive sometime in June, Martha.
In the meantime, Ramadi has fallen since that request was originally made. So these weapon systems are going directly to Baghdad, to the government there. Is that right? So how does the distribution work on these? And doesn't that pose a problem as well, as we've seen, Doug?
Well, you might recall that the attack on Kobani several months ago, the Peshmerga forces were complaining that they were not getting U.S. weapons in a timely manner because they were going through Baghdad. There were questions of whether or not it was just a bureaucratic holdup, or whether there was some kind of diversion of the weapon system to some other outfit. Perhaps it was corruption. That appears to have waned now. Apparently, these Peshmerga forces in the Kobani area and in the northern part of Syria and Iraq are using these weapon systems with great effect. So hopefully that will happen here. That remains to be seen, though, Martha.
Sure does. Thank you, Doug.
Right about 9 minutes past the hour, John Boehner tees off on the new head of the Veterans Administration. Speaker Boehner wants to know why only one person has lost their job nearly a year after the scandal that forced the resignation of Secretary Eric Shinseki. We will have that, plus we will have this.
Climate change constitutes a serious threat to global security, an immediate risk to our national security. And so we need to act, and we need to act now.
So, President Obama warning climate change is the biggest threat to national security. Really? We'll talk about that. General Jack Keane is about to testify, and there he is in Baghdad in days past, and he will be on Capitol Hill talking about this issue. We will go to him, but first, Bill O'Reilly.
The brutal truth is, the Obama administration is losing the fight against ISIS. That savage group is now operating in 9 countries. Talking Points believes that the apathy the Obama administration has shown to this growing worldwide threat endangers all Americans.